Continue his testimony at the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into claims of state capture. On Friday, Agrizzi told the inquiry, chaired by Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, that members of the ANC in the Northwest had in the past laundered money through the facility's youth centres. He claimed that the money was then used to run the party's regional elections. Agrizzi also implicated the Commission Secretary, Dr. Kotso de Beer, in wrongdoing. He told the Commission that de Beer was a recipient of cash payments relating to a 2008 tender awarded to Bosasa subsidiary, Zondo IT, by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. The tender was for the installation of security systems at the courts around the country. In March 2018, Zondo appointed de Beer as the Secretary for the Commission, but at the time the tender was awarded, de Beer was the Chief Operations Officer at the Department of Justice. De Beer, who now holds a crucial post at the Zondo Commission, was allegedly paid an undisclosed amount of cash monthly by Bosasa via politically connected middlemen. Well, that's just what we've heard already. The startling revelations dropped at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into state capture this week may in fact be just the tip of the iceberg. The Sunday Times reporting today that Bosasa former COO Agrizzi is set to drop even more bombshells this week, including claims that former President Jacob Zuma and top prosecutors were on the payroll of the controversial company. It's also being reported he will implicate Minister Nomvula Mokonyane, who allegedly accepted gifts of whisky and braai meat, as well as those prosecutors we were talking about, Jiba and Mrwebi. To discuss, we're joined by Sunday Times political reporter Qaanitah Hunter. Great to have you with us, Qaanitah.
Thank you very much.
Can you believe what you're writing sometimes?
It seems like a movie, and I think lots of people were kept at the edge of their seat last week when we saw that video of the Bosasa CEO Gavin Watson counting almost R1 million of cash, which is essentially what the Commission heard was bribe money. Now, the system of Bosasa was they relied on government contracts and tenders amounting to millions and hundreds of millions of rands. And the way they got those contracts, the Commission heard, was that it was through corruption and fraud. People were paid. People were almost placed on retainers, and eventually, the criminal justice system was almost on their back, with the special investigating unit, being tasked almost a decade ago to investigate Bosasa, and they found, prima facie evidence of wrongdoing, and they recommended that the NPA prosecute people with regards to 4 tenders at the time of the correctional services. It's now been almost a decade since then, and government still has contracts with Bosasa. Bosasa still makes, millions of rands per annum from the state. And now today we found out that the way that they evaded the courts, the way that they evaded, criminal investigation and prosecution was because bundles of money that we saw in those videos were also packed for the President of the Republic. And the difference between, spurious accusations that we've heard in the past to this is that A, the testimony is given under oath, B, Agrizzi puts himself at the center of these accusations. In some instances, in the instances of Nomvula Mokonyane, he says he personally made sure that her Christmas groceries was ordered and delivered. He ensured that her pool was repaired. The Commission is expected to hear things like, Bosasa having to pay for political rallies of the ANC. And Agrizzi, the difference between other spurious accusations that have been made against politicians and this time is that Agrizzi is coming forward and said, I did it.
The 300,000, that was one of the retainers allegedly to former President Jacob Zuma. A lot of people know it's hard to prove corruption. There's a lot in cash. Just explain how that worked. Dudu Myeni, the alleged conduit.
Okay, so this 300,000 rand was money that was packed from that bribe money that South Africans saw in that video of the vault of Bosasa, where money was packed and put in grey bags to be distributed for bribes. So it was given through Zuma's proxy, Dudu Myeni, who was the former South African Airways chairperson. We know that she was very close to the former president, and then when Gavin Watson became suspicious that perhaps the former president was actually not getting the money, he went to Nkandla himself to go and deliver the money. And the Commission is expected to hear a recording where Gavin Watson boasts about his conversations with Zuma. And the interesting part is that he boasted about how he can influence Zuma about the NPA and appointments at the NPA. Now we know that Gavin Watson, people like Agrizzi and other officials that were implicated in the corruption at Bosasa, in corruption that's spanning over 10, 15 years, the reason why they were never fully investigated and prosecuted successfully, or even just arrested and taken to court, was because they had the NPA on their payroll. And the interesting thing is that in the past people suspected this, and people could not understand why a case that was sitting with the NPA for 8 years, nothing has come out of it. The Hawks head, the new Hawks head, Godfrey Labia, told Parliament in November last year that the new Bosasa cases will be finalized in a month or so. It's the end of January, and there's nothing. I mean, these cases are a decade old.
So what you're saying is it would finally make sense why certain prosecutions have been shelved for years and years and years. However, the credibility of Agrizzi counts here. Your newspaper, questioning things. He said he had a near-death experience and that's why he's talking. But also your report that he tried to take over the company. Now it looks like he's being vindictive, trying to nail his former colleagues. Does that affect the light in which we view his testimony?
Absolutely. Angelo Agrizzi is no angel. He's not doing this because he believes in the rule of law and justice. I think obviously there is definitely a personal motive behind this. And secondly, if you've seen our reporting in the Sunday Times, is that we were fair and balanced in how we detailed this entire Bosasa bonanza. On one hand, the damning accusations that he's going to make under oath before the commission, and then on the other hand, to sort of make the reader understand that this is not random. He tried to take over Bosasa. That didn't quite work out for him. His News 24 was reporting that he's trying to get amnesty from prosecution with the NPA. So there's all of these things hanging around Agrizzi. We've reported today that he's in witness protection. So is Angelo Agrizzi an angel? No, he's not. But that cannot discount the testimony that he's presenting before the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, particularly because he puts himself at the center of it. He's not saying, this happened but I was not involved, that happened I was not involved. He says, Nomvula Mokonyane was on the payroll of Bosasa or benefited financially from Bosasa from earliest 2002. He details the occasions, he goes into detail as to what financial benefit she received, what she asked from the company on various occasions, and it puts other information that we know and we've been investigating around certain politicians. Sort of it connects the dots, and investigators have a lot of work to do. Let me give you an example. The commission is not going to listen to him and just take his word as it is. In his affidavit, Agrizzi says that he was invited to the Sheraton where Dudu Myeni presented him with a confidential NPA document. Included in that was the police docket, which you're not allowed to have, which he then sort of scanned through and took pictures of. When he gave those pictures to the investigators at the Zondo Commission, they double-checked and found that the carpet pattern in those pictures matches the Sheraton. The dates that he gave were the same dates Dudu Myeni stayed. So obviously everything is going to be corroborated.
And I think you've also said they can even go into phone records and see who was at Nkandla when. Nomvula Mokonyane, so there are already jokes about this braai meat that was required for her parties every Christmas. We've been trying to get hold of everyone. She's not talking. I think her spokesperson saying that who can need so much braai meat, sort of questioning that. Has anyone responded to these claims?
Lawrence Mrwebi and Nomgcobo Jiba spoke to me yesterday, and they've categorically denied it. They said they've approached the Zondo Commission to come forward and give their own testimony under oath. They've said that they did not receive a cent from Bosasa. They suspect that someone else may have received money in their name. They say that they're going to apply to cross-examine Agrizzi possibly, so that their version can be presented before the commission. Obviously their woes are far from over, as they have their own inquiry to deal with. Former President Jacob Zuma has been quiet in this matter, but there has been a sort of emergence of fake news, if you've seen WhatsApp messages that have been going around and bots that have been attacking the credibility of the Sunday Times.
So let's talk about that. So Nomvula Mokonyane herself, not saying too much at the moment. So that came out, suddenly somebody saying that they were manipulated by the Sunday Times, by the editor, to name names that aren't in the affidavit. Nomvula Mokonyane, Dudu Myeni, it's subsequently fake news. I mean, that's so disturbing.
Absolutely. Just to put it on record, Francis, firstly, the Farida Joyce, the person whose name this fake WhatsApp message is written in, she is not an employee of Sunday Times or the Tiso Black Star Group. She is a journalist. She has come out and said that she knows nothing about it. She did not write this message that's going around. So essentially it's fabrication and misinformation. If you look at the bot reaction and the attempts to discredit this report, which is entirely just based on information that's going to be heard at the Commission, it's not something that we've sort of conjured up, it's something that's going to be said under oath.
Yeah.
And it's going to be quite fascinating to see, the extent of what's going to come out at the Commission. I think we just took the iceberg a little bit further, but there's more to come.
Yeah, it does suggest that the modus operandi used by Bell Pottinger is being used by others. It's another suggestion of that, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think last night there were sort of attempts to intimidate the journalists that were working on the story before the article came out, and now that the article is out, the people are using or riding on attempts to sort of discredit the Sunday Times entirely, based on previous accusations against the paper, and now creating this sort of ambit that says that the Sunday Times, sent journalists out to sort of make up information about. And I wrote the story. I was at the Commission every day this week, and there is no such person by the name of Farida Joyce that works for the Sunday Times. And the reality of the situation is that this is something that can't be ignored. Nomvula Mokonyane, Jacob Zuma, Dudu Myeni, Nomgcobo, Jiba, Lawrence Mrwebi, these are some of the people that will have to come forward and give their version under oath to the Commission.
So you say it's based on the affidavit. Have you seen the full affidavit? And I love that journalists are doing their job and reporting well on the Zondo Commission, but does that raise any concerns about the Commission leaking information that should be kept under wraps until certain testimony is given?
Francis, we cannot share the source of our information, and that's probably something you'll understand as a journalist as well. But the reality of it is that everyone was gripped by this information coming out of Agrizzi. It was our duty as journalists to take it forward, to tell South Africans what they expected to hear, and to contextualize it, and to connect the dots and put everything together to say that these things are not random. These in the Commission, it's quite difficult to sort of, piece together why this matters and why is this important. And now it basically shows what we set out to do today is, why did the NPA and the Hawks sit on this case for almost a decade? And this is the answer that we're giving in the Sunday Times today.
Mrwebi and Jiba come up, but the claim was always that Sean Abrahams was sort of the head honcho, protecting people who should be prosecuted. Is his name mentioned at all?
The reality of the situation is that Sean Abrams came at a very late stage. This Bosasa, debacle, or the Bosasa's attempts to evade the justice was sort of 2012, 2013, 2014. Nomgcobo Jiba was acting NDPP at the time. But if we're going to hear this week that Watson advised Zuma on who to appoint, it's just bizarre. Some of the things that we expected to hear is absolutely bizarre. Bosasa has been in the media for almost 15 years. A lot of the things that have come out has already been reported on, and so has been the case with the information presented to the Zondo Commission around the Gupta brothers. But what is up to the Commission now and the investigators is to say, why did the NPA sit on these cases for 10 years, and then to sort of understand how accusations of a bribery could sort of fit in and complete the puzzle as to why some people were untouchable by the law and why justice was evaded for so long.
So finally, Qaanitah, your journalistic opinion, because some people say this should be in the courts. The problem is that people are not being prosecuted, which is part of the ambit of the Zondo Commission. But is it the right way to go, to do all these inquiries? Will it lead to real prosecutions? Will it lead to jail time for anybody?
So I think the legacy of the Zuma years was the breakdown of state institutions, and that's what we see at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. Institutions were systematically broken down so that, and people were placed, people who were recipients of patronage were placed in these key institutions like SARS. We heard it in the Nugent inquiry. We're going to hear it in the Jiba and Mrwebi inquiry. We're going to see it in the PIC inquiry. So all of these inquiries are taking place. But the question is, why won't we see people in jail? Because this is white-collar crime. And the reality is, the word state capture almost takes away from, it makes it a political matter, when instead these are crimes committed. This is fraud, this is corruption. We almost have to remind ourselves that this is...
People should be in jail.
People should be in jail.
Has Agrizzi, do we have any information on him possibly applying for amnesty?
So at the moment we know that
heading towards that, because this should go to court.
I said earlier that the News 24 has been reporting that this week, but we've said today that he is under witness protection. He's been given 24-hour close protection. We see it at the Commission as well. Obviously, the Commission is not taking any chances with his security. He's been receiving threats, and the police have been, informed about this, and there has been a case opened. But we know that the sort of tense times that we are living in, there are too many people implicated and too many vested interest in this, and so I think the Zondo Commission at least is not taking any chances. What we heard from for me, what's really important is that the NPA has been broken down to such a point that even though there's glaring evidence of corruption, fraud, money laundering, and racketeering in the case of Bosasa, as is in the case with a whole lot of other state capture incidences over the last decade or so. The reality is the state does not have the capacity to successfully prosecute white-collar crime and corruption.
So we still have to build that up. We have to end it there, but sure, it's been incredible so far, and set to get even more interesting according to your reports that will come out, like you say, because it is in the affidavit if your reporting is accurate. Thank you for being with us.